Well, we've got breaking news out of the NFL where the Patriots are trading Pro Bowl pass rusher Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons. That's the latest from our senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones. In return for Judon, New England will reportedly receive a third-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Judon is entering the final year of his contract and will be able to hit free agency this offseason. In his last 3 seasons in New England, Judon has racked up 32 sacks and over 130 tackles. And we now bring in CBS Sports lead NFL insider Jonathan Jones. And it was reported that there were other teams interested in Judon, the Falcons giving up that third-round pick to acquire him. But I want to ask you, why Atlanta?
Atlanta's been trying really for the past year to get some pass rush help. We can go back to the trade deadline when Washington was selling off Chase Young and Montez Sweat. The Falcons really believed they were close on the Georgia native Montez Sweat, and ultimately he went to the Chicago Bears. And so the Falcons had to sort of start all over. Now you have the NFL draft. They're picking at number 8. We all know they went with Michael Penix Jr., but then they tried to trade back up into the first to get Latu before the Indianapolis Colts wound up drafting that pass rusher. They got Braylon Tice, and then he went out and just tore his ACL about a week ago. But they were always, even with him, the rookie there, they were always looking for more pass rush help. They had sniffed around Hassan Reddick before he got dealt to the New York Jets, and we know that that isn't really working out right now for either Hassan Reddick or the Jets. And they had had an eye on Matthew Judon for some time, and the Patriots clearly did not want to pay him any sort of contract enhancement, one that I'm sure is going to be coming from Atlanta, despite them being very much up against the salary cap right now. But Matthew Judon finding a new home a day before his birthday, turning 32 on Thursday, and he will be with the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, he certainly got his birthday wish, wanting out of New England and now finding that new home. Now, the other thing that he probably wants for his birthday is to get paid, because that was one of the main reasons. He wanted a new contract, and that was one of his reasons of getting out or wanting to be out of New England. So is that where things are maybe headed now that he's in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'd heard that there were some discussions between Matthew Judon's representation and the Atlanta Falcons a little bit earlier. You do not make this trade really under any circumstances without having an agreement, at least in place, some sort of verbal understanding and agreement. Again, the Falcons, I think, are somewhere in between $3 and $4 million in cap space. Matthew Judon is around $6.5 million in salary. We know that he didn't want to play in 2024 under that deal in New England. And so surely, clearly, a deal is going to get hammered out. And I said under any circumstances, but you certainly aren't doing it after you're seeing what's taking place in Florham Park, New Jersey, where Hassan Reddick gets dealt there. And clearly a breakdown in communication, whichever side you believe, Reddick's side or the New York Jets side, clearly something was miscommunicated along the way. And now he is not there after you have traded for him. So surely there is going to be a contract, whether it is official by the time I get done talking, or it is official tomorrow when this will become official on the league books, and they will have to be under the salary cap. Surely something is coming for the 32-year-old Matt Judon.
I would certainly hope that the Falcons are taking a page out of the Jets' book, or maybe avoiding what the Jets are going through now, trading for a player that wants a new contract. But there have been plenty of reports out of some of the joint practices with the Eagles that this Patriots team might need to go back to the drawing board. They have not looked sharp, and it's been concerning. Now, with this loss of Judon, does that maybe raise even more concerns with what lies ahead for this new regime?
Yeah, I would say it's probably pretty objectively one of the worst rosters in the NFL. You know, they were picking third for a reason. A number of draft misses over the past couple of years. Some peculiar free agency decisions that, you know, happened when Belichick was there, kind of sort of continued a little bit. You know, let's not forget they went out and paid Christian Barmore as the highest paid Patriot in team history, and he's dealing with blood clots. And so that is also going on the defensive side. Thankfully, they get Christian Gonzalez back after he missed most of his rookie year last year, and he has looked really good. But outside of that, you're talking about a Patriots team that really is lacking in talent. You don't get better on the field by trading away Matthew Judon in 2024. Obviously, a third-round pick that's a nice haul for a Patriots team, for a guy who is coming off an injury, for his age, when you know that he has to get a contract somewhere else. So that's really well done by Elliott Wolf, who is now in the general manager seat of the New England Patriots. But it's hard for me to imagine that we're going to see Drake May in week 1. I still believe it's going to be Jacoby Brissett starting, because you want the veteran back there rather than the rookie who is going to take hits, who is not throwing to very many talented folks out there. This was a Patriots team that was very much in contention for Brandon Ayuk, and because they had missed out on Calvin Ridley, because they had missed out on wide receivers in the draft and free agency before. So a lot of bad mistakes over the years have caught up to the Patriots. They're going to have to draft their way out of this over the next couple of years, but it's not going to be a quick fix, and it will be a very long fall and very long winter in Foxborough.
Yeah, you say that's a very nice haul for New England, but they'll have to wait till 2025 to reap those benefits. But for now, still probably more questions than answers in Foxborough. That's our lead CBS Sports NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. Thanks for stopping by, JJ. And when healthy, Judon has been an elite pass rusher. He's one of 2 players in Patriots history with multiple 12-sack seasons, along with Hall of Famer Andre Tippett. The Falcons hoping Judon can bounce back this year after playing just 4 games last season because of a torn bicep. We now bring in CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. And Tyler, you've been out in Foxborough all throughout training camp, throughout this offseason. If you've kind of watched everything unfold, I just want to ask you, how did we get to this point, and what led New England to making this move?
Yeah, unfold is a word. Devolve is another one, because that's really kind of how this whole thing has seemingly gone on. Obviously, a player's contract status going into a given offseason, and Matthew Judon was certainly a storyline going all the way back into the spring, where he has 1 year left on his deal. The previous summer, the Patriots had moved money from 2024 into 2023 to appease him for that season. Obviously, you can't move any more money from future years. There are no future years, so something had to be done here. And the longer that it went, and in particular, the more guys the Patriots locked up on their roster for contract extensions, the more we kind of had a sense that things could get a little bit uneasy for Matthew Judon and the New England Patriots. And a couple of weeks ago, roughly, about 16 days ago or so, things really came to a head during a training camp practice. It was their first fully padded practice of the summer. Matthew Judon, who had been participating lightly, just like any other veteran, you wouldn't really think too much of it before that, didn't participate in the practice, and more than that, kind of had a tantrum of sorts during that session. He had a very animated conversation with Gerard Mayo on the field. It seemed like he was either dismissed or left on his own accord the practice field, only to reemerge a few moments later to have another animated conversation with Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh, who lead the front office. And so that was the first kind of moment where you say, oh boy, something could happen here with Matthew Judon in terms of no longer being a New England Patriot. Now, things had somewhat simmered over the next few days or so. He was a participant in practice, but ultimately, this is a player that wanted to get paid. And the Patriots, as much as they were willing to extend a bunch of other guys on their roster, they drew a line with Matthew Judon, who's going to be 32 years old tomorrow and is coming off a season-ending injury. It's not a player that they wanted to see forward with beyond 2024, and ultimately it led them to trade him.
Yeah, obviously a big piece of what the Patriots would want to do on defense, but then you think about some of their missing pieces. Christian Barmore, a guy that's still out dealing with blood clots. You're without Judon. Who replaces him now in New England?
Yeah, it's a huge blow for the Patriots on both fronts, right? There was a minute there when you're talking about Christian Barmore, when the news comes out that he has blood clots and he's going to be out indefinitely. I almost wondered if that was going to bring the two sides closer together, where the Patriots then painted into a corner to come to terms on some sort of agreement with Matthew Judon, whether it be a raise for 2024 or an extension and adding some years on there. Ultimately didn't become the case, and now you're losing both of those players. And so you're arguably losing your two best defensive players in terms of the defensive line. And so who replaces Matthew Judon? I think the first guy that you're going to hear is Keon White. He is somebody that the Patriots are pretty high on. Gerard Mayo, talked about him at had someone that he thought was going to take a leap in year two, kind of during the offseason program, someone who surprised him and was on the radar of someone who could make that leap. Certainly a talented player for them, and he's been having a pretty strong spring and summer as well. So he's somebody that I think you can kind of keep an eye on as to who could be that next guy in this defense. And Anthony Jennings is another one for this defense. But as well as those guys may or may not play, if the healthy Matthew Judon is who we're talking about here, it's a dramatic loss for this Patriots team. He was arguably your best player, and so it's tough to say that you can just easily replace him. But in terms of the roster spot, it's probably going to go to Keon White and Anthony Jennings.
You talk about losing one of your best players, and then you talk about Barmore, two of your best defensive players. But we've heard plenty of reports out of Patriots camp, which you have been at, that this has not looked like a great team. It's been not as sharp, I think, as we would probably expect from this team or hope for this team under Gerard Mayo's first season. But just what is your level of concern as you've watched these guys at practice? You've seen their joint practices with the Eagles. How's that level of concern at this point in where we are 3 weeks away from week one?
Yeah, I, like you said, I was at that Eagles joint practice yesterday, and it was not pretty. It was very much a varsity versus JV type of situation. Specifically, if we want to talk about the Eagles defense versus the Patriots offense, that to me was the key storyline and the thing that I was most focused on. The offensive line for New England could not stop anybody that wanted to get to the quarterback. During 11-on-11s, the Patriots offense really couldn't do too much, whether it was Jacoby Brissett or Drake May under center. So when you start to look at that, you're saying, boy, is this offense ready? As much as we were talking about Matthew Judon being a big storyline this offseason, another storyline was how they were going to upgrade the tackle positions. They drafted Caden Wallace on day 2. They signed Chukwuezekwor in free agency, but it kind of felt like a half measure. There really wasn't that splash to bring somebody in that could be a left tackle or a right tackle. We thought it was going to be Mike Owenu when they re-signed him to an extension, but he has been exclusively playing right guard. He played right tackle last year. They've kicked him inside, and right now that offensive line looks like a major problem. And if the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that can really get after these quarterbacks, you can say it pretty much for everybody else in the NFL, that these quarterbacks, whether it be Jacoby Brissett or Drake May, who's under center, they're going to be under siege for most of the season.
Certainly, Patriots looking to maybe turn the page from what this earlier showing was in these joint practices, because they're going to take the field Thursday, 7 p.m., taking on those Eagles. And like you said, if those pass rushers can get to that quarterback, it might be a tough go for Brissett, May, and co. out there in Foxborough. Tyler, as always, thanks so much for stopping by. So when healthy, Judon has been an elite pass rusher. He's one of 2 players in Patriots history with multiple 12-sack seasons, along with Hall of Famer Andre Tippett. The Falcons hoping Judon can bounce back this year after playing just 4 games last season because of a torn bicep. Patriots seemingly having a big hole to fill on their defensive front.